Welcome back to Hot Takes with Mark Goldbridge. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, good. Not too bad. Little bit concerned about certain clubs, i.e. Man United's lack of transfer activity. But apart from that, I think it's going to start hotting up in the next 2 weeks anyway.
Yeah, I think so as well. I've been a little like that. I just feel I've always felt it's going to be the next financial year where we really kick into gear, especially with the sales. I don't think we want the sales before, or we hope that's the case. And the few exits to look at today, Sancho's looks good, and we're going to touch on Garnacho as well, wearing that infamous shirt, and a big take from Troy Deeney. Remember, if you're new to watching Hot Take, yes, we're touching on the current stories, the transfer news in the summer, but we're taking some interesting takes from fans and pundits alike, getting Mark's reaction to them along with yourselves live. So get the like button hit if you haven't done so already. Get this shared across your social media platforms as well. And I wanted to start off with Garnacho, Mark. We've obviously seen the post. We've seen a lot of people's reaction and their frustration that he put on the Aston Villa shirt with Rashford's name on the back, and it's a clear message. Here is what Troy Deeney has said should be the reaction. Let's take a little listen.
By the way, have you seen that picture of Garnacho wearing the Rashford Villa shirt on holiday? He's posted a picture on his Instagram wearing a Villa shirt with Rashford's name on the back. The guy's an absolute wind-up. Like, why would you not try and fall into line?
I really thought she was going to use a different W word then.
Would have been the best piece of TalkSport opinion in 2 decades, but yeah, they failed again.
Yeah.
When you know that you're kind of try to make your way back into the manager's good books. Is that not just
he doesn't want to. They think they've got a move lined up, and obviously he's playing it that way. But again, it's a new generation, right? So I've got to try and be careful to not sound like an old man who's grumpy. They just need a clip off of these, don't they? Just give him a clip right here.
The most immature I've seen from Garnacho. I didn't think you'd get that. So immature. What are you doing? Why are you trying to wind everyone up like that? Why are you trying to wind up the club that pays you what they pay you?
Because they're bored and they've got no respect. Is something that he's spoken about now. It's not earned. So I think, if it was me at Man United, if I was Fernandez, I'd wait till he come back, and first day I'd just smash him. I would. I genuinely would. I'm not even trying to make headlines. I'd smash him. I'd just be like, "This is Man United. Like, who do you think you are, you little dope?"
That's his take there. If he was the captain, if he was Bruno, he'd smash him. First day back in training. You had the host there, whose name, unfortunately, I don't know her name. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Talking about him being really immature, disrespectful. Do you agree with what they say?
Like he said himself, if it was 30 years ago, I'm sure Roy Keane would do the same. Unfortunately, we live in this world where these footballers, I think he's right, are bored, and they're very social media aware. A lot of people say this wouldn't have happened back in the day, but I do think if you gave mobile phones and Twitter and YouTube and Instagram to the likes of David Beckham, etc., it's hard to say how they would have reacted, really. The big thing was how the club was. I'm not saying David Beckham would be walking around in a Villa shirt, certainly not. He loved the club and he's a professional. But the big thing is the way the club's run now. Like, if you don't need Bruno Fernandes or Roy Keane to smash him, because Sir Alex Ferguson would destroy him. Sir Alex Ferguson removed Beckham, Stam, Van Nistelrooy, Keane, Paul Ince, who were United legends, really. And he removed them because he didn't want them at the club anymore. Not because they were wearing Villa shirts, and they were at the top of their game. We now let people take the piss, and they're not at the top of their game. So Garnacho didn't have a good season. Rashford didn't have a good season. And they're out there doing interviews about role models being Thierry Henry and wearing Villa shirts. So the big problem is, I don't disagree with what Troy Deeney is saying, but that world doesn't exist. When he literally said the words, "We're Man United." Well, we're not Man United. Every United fan knows that we're not Man United. We're not like we used to be. And as for Bruno smashing him, is this the guy who spent 2 weeks over the Europa League final thinking about whether he's going to go to Saudi? Even the captain, the guy that you want to smash him, thinks United are so bad that he was thinking about going to Saudi. I'm not knocking Bruno, but he's not in a position to go and smash anyone anyway, because he genuinely did think about going to Saudi for 2 weeks because he's so fed up with it. So to me, the shit rolls downhill, and the way that this fundamentally comes back to, Garnacho's bang out of order. absolutely bang out of order. But if you cultivate an environment where that sort of thing can happen, then you've got to look at why it's happening, and it goes back to the way that clubs run, to be honest. But I do agree with Troy Deeney. I just don't think, that's a comment from 1999. It's not one from 2025.
Yeah, I get that, and I agree with you wholeheartedly about the idea that the footballers of old wouldn't have done that. Do we listen? I love David Beckham. Do we really think he wouldn't have put something out on social media, even if it was just him?
Well, he put the stitches on the cut to his thing, didn't he?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Which everybody said was pretty. He put a headband on so that you could see the forehead. Then he had the stitches, and everyone said, he wanted that to be known.
They weren't needed. I remember at the time, and I love Beckham, my absolute hero, but they said at the time that wasn't needed. So, yeah, look, I completely get why people are angry, but I don't necessarily think players from yesteryear wouldn't have done things as an example. But look, for me, he's trying to force a move. United have set the price high on him leaving. I think there'll always be a happy medium in that. I don't mind them publicly stating 70 million. All clubs overstate publicly how much they want for players. I'm not too disheartened by it. But what this guarantees is Ineos have got to find a solution, because you can't have that in the dress. That's someone who's already doing this in the dressing room for pre-season. If anything, if we ain't sold him, I still think banish him, let him train by himself, do his fitness work, but maybe keep him away. Don't make him eat his lunch in the fucking car this time. Don't do nothing stupid like that. Sorry to interrupt. There has been a bit of a bomb. A little bit of a little on-steam bomb since we've been live, that I think worth reacting to, and that's that Arsenal are exploring a deal to sign Christian Norgaard from Brentford. Arsenal have proposed an offer for the 31-year-old midfielder of 11 million euros, waiting for Brentford's reply. The Denmark international contract runs out in 2027. So, I mean, there is a bit of an exodus at the moment at Brentford with players and managers going, but Arsenal, they're making a move. By the way, I did not know he was 31. Don't know why, but I didn't know he was 31. But what do you make of that as a potential move for Arsenal?
I mean, it's intelligent. That's what it is. It's not the deal that's going to make Arsenal think they're going to win the league. It's the sort of deal that's going to make you think, where would he even fit in with Zubimendi, Rice, Odegaard? But it gives you something that Arsenal need, which is squad depth. And it gives you a player that, as Premier League proven in a good Brentford side, is going to give you that squad depth. So, and at that price, I just think it's intelligent, and it's not always about, the sparkling diamond. Sometimes it's about reliability. So I think it's an intelligent move for Arsenal. I don't think it's going to make Liverpool or Man City or anyone else go, oh my God. But I think Arsenal need depth. And I think that's an intelligent move for Arsenal, albeit surprising. But I think with Brentford, I said on That's Football yesterday, are we looking at Brentford as a potential relegation candidate now? They've brought the set piece coach in. They're losing Mbeumo. They've lost their goalkeeper. And now they're losing one of their better midfielders. So it's intelligent, though, I think. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, listen, I think from an Arsenal perspective, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, yes, he's 31 years of age, but he's one of those players that I put into that Prem proven category that I don't think will let you down. Partey looks like he's going to go. They've got Zubimendi coming in, who's going to be the main guy. Zubimendi is going to be the main man holding that midfield. Declan Rice can play in that position as well. They need someone that can kind of step in. He has a very good injury record. I think Norgaard, I think he's missed a couple of games last year, a few games the season before, but doesn't really get injured too much. Got a great engine, technically very proficient on the ball. For someone to be the backup midfielder, he'll be on the bench a lot. He'll play League Cup games. He'll come on as a sub last 20 minutes of matches. I think it's a very, very intelligent piece of business by Arsenal. I really like him. And yeah, I feel a little sorry for Brentford because they've kept a really good group of players together for a while. That looks like it's now coming to an end. And I don't even mean this disrespectfully. I feel like we're seeing the Premier League return to a little bit of what I grew up as normal, where you'd get a Norgaard, you'd get an Mbeumo, you would see a Semenyo. They would rarely last more than a season or two at the clubs they're at before a bigger club would pick them off. And it seems in the last 7 or 8 years, clubs, maybe because of the TV money, have been able to hold on to these players longer. But a lot of these players now are not renewing their deals, or they're getting gentlemen's agreements or buyout clauses to enable them to move. So, yeah, feel sorry for Brentford. But Gooners, let us know in the comment section, because for me, I think that's a really, really intelligent piece of business indeed for Arsenal Football Club. Isn't going to win them the league, as you've said, but I think we'll stand them in very, very good stead. The other Arsenal news that we were going to talk about earlier, and this is more of a take. We know that they're pursuing Gyokeres. They're looking at Šeško. The deal for Gyokeres, it's a little up and down, really. 1 minute they're going to bid. The British press has started to report on that, but I think it's kind of connected to what the Portuguese press are saying. But this was an interesting take I wanted to get your view on, Mark. I think it's from an Arsenal fan, but he says here that, picking Gyokeres over Šeško would be a sideways step for the Arteta project. I don't think we're silly enough to do it, but when you look financially, ability-wise, and potential-wise, then who makes more sense? It's obviously Benjamin Šeško. Thoughts?
I think that I feel that Arsenal have to go for Šeško because it's very clearly that that's the striker that Arteta wants. But answers on a postcard as to what they're actually going to do. I almost feel like Berta, the director of football, wants Gyokeres, and Gyokeres isn't an easy deal to do. I mean, apparently he's on strike at Sporting, so it's not like he's the cheaper deal necessarily. There's a lot of work to be done on that. I don't know with Arsenal. I think the first week of July is going to be really interesting because when you look at Liverpool, and I don't understand why football clubs don't realise the most obvious secret source in the world. I was saying this on the United stand. Erling Haaland was in at Man City early. Man City have done a lot of business early. Again, Rodri was signed on the 6th of July early. Pep Guardiola's been doing it for years. Early signings. Liverpool have done it again. Early signings. Why? Because you want your players having a proper pre-season, preparing for a proper season. So Arsenal have to have this striker in for the start of pre-season. Which way they're going to go, I think you have to go Šeško because that's the player that Arteta wants. But I still wouldn't be surprised if they went and got Gyokeres. They are still the favourites to sign him. So, but I do agree with the comment that it just feels like Šeško is the right fit for Arteta. So that's the one that they should go for.
Yeah, look, it's a real interesting one. I get that train of thought. I feel I prefer Gyokeres. I think he's the better. It's a weird one, actually. I was talking to someone about this yesterday, one of our viewers on Instagram. He sent me a few messages, and every now and then I'll see a DM and I'll kind of respond to it. And I was saying, look, I think Gyokeres is clear of him in terms of finishing. I'm not particularly sure he's clear of him in all the other departments in terms of hold-up play, approach play, technical ability. He's quality when he's in wide positions or in the channels. I think they're much closer in those areas, but the goals, which is of course very important for a striker, Gyokeres is clear. But I also feel Gyokeres will score less goals in the Prem next year, where I think a Šeško in the Premier League and a team like Arsenal will score more goals. So I think they'd be a close, they'd be nearer to each other in terms of totality of goals if they were both at teams like Arsenal in the Premier League last season, and that might change some people's minds. But the speed thing is probably the only area that I disagree on slightly. And I've said this a few times on the United stand. I will start to get annoyed if we're 2 weeks into pre-season, we're on the tour and there's no movement. However, as long as Arsenal have got 2 or 3 new signings, Zubimendi will be one of them. If they get the striker done, they bring in Norgaard as a replacement for Partey, they've got their backup goalkeeper, I think they're going to go. It seems like they're going to go for Rodrigo, and that's going to take them the majority of the summer. As long as they've got the majority in by the time pre-season starts or in the first week or so of it, I don't necessarily think that's an issue. Where I do agree is if you're getting to the back end of the tour and you've only got one player in and a backup goalkeeper, that's when I think the Arsenal fans should really show their frustration. Until that point, whether they sign Gyokeres today or 3 weeks ago, barring fans feeling relaxed, I don't think it changes much about next season. But
I think with certain positions, I think with United and Arsenal, the striker is essential. The winger for Arsenal, you could start the season absolutely fine with Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, etc. You've got Nwaneri as well. But the striker for Man United as well, these players are the guys that are going to score you the goals. These guys are going to get you the points. So Arsenal can't afford to draw games. They need to win games. They need Arsenal need that striker in for pre-season, certainly before they go on tour, because they need to be building relationships in the dressing room, on the coach. and on the pitch. They can't land that strike. They can't. The way I look at it, and I've said it about United, so let's say it about Arsenal. If I'm the director of football, I can't be sitting there going, if we wait till the end of August, we'll save 10 million on Sesko. If we wait till the end of August, we'll save 10 million on Gyokeres. You might have lost the title by then. You save 10 million, but you cost yourself a pre-season and 3 fixtures. They've got to get that. I understand. With Rodrigo, you might say we can save 10 million by waiting until the end of August, and I'd probably do it. But the context is that position is so important. They've got to get it done.
But that's where I think these conversations are important. And sometimes, you'll say something on one of your streams, I'll say something. And I'm sure since we've been working together, I get more of it. Mark said something different. And I actually think when two grown-ups have a conversation and talk, you'll find a lot more common ground. And I had this conversation with Potsy and LB yesterday. I agree, for instance, I wouldn't wait until the end of August, 3 or 4 games into the Premier League season, to save £5 to £10 million on Gyokeres or Sesko. You get them in. Where I would do that is in this period where players are on holiday and there's no pre-season, if you can do it.
About 3 weeks, haven't you? Mid-July.
And I think that's where equally I get people are getting concerned, but some of the responses I've had to that have been weird. It's like, yeah, but we're gonna have a crap window anyway. I'm like, okay, well then it doesn't matter whether you get them early or late, does it? Like the speed then becomes irrelevant. Do you know what I mean? If you're gonna get served some dinner that's awful, doesn't matter if it comes out cold or hot. If it tastes like rubbish, it tastes like rubbish at the end of the day. So I do get it, and I think that Arsenal need to get some movement going forward. Looks like they're doing that now with Norgaard. Let's see what else. Let's see what else they can do. But viewers, give us your views and opinions. This is Super Chat says Gyokeres is a better finisher, passer, presser, and ball carrier than Sesko. Who to sign depends on the goal for next season. Sesko is not the one with immediate impact.
He's got a good goal record, though. Leipzig was shit last year, and he still scored a lot of goals. Look, the reality is, absolutely fine comment. Terry might have agreed with it. I might agree with it. But the reality is, it's very well known that Arteta wants Sesko. And as the manager, I didn't want Bruno to stay, but Amrin wants him to stay. So I'll back that. And I think that's always the thing, isn't it? We can project our opinions and we're entitled to them. But when you know the manager's stance, I think you've got to get on board with it. Because ultimately, if he gets Sesko and it goes wrong and he gets the sack, at least he gets the sack based on what he wanted. This is true. A bloody nightmare next year, and Amrin gets the sack. I don't want him to get the sack, but I'd probably look at it and go, "Well, he wanted to keep Bruno."
Yeah, you advocated for it. Yes, a very, very, very fair point. This here from Adele says, "I think Rashford and Garnacho need a wake-up call as to see they are not as good as they think they are. Rashford had a good season with us, and like one good season, I think he means with us, and that's it." Yeah, I mean, look, I think there is an element of that. There's no doubt. In fairness to Rashford, like I know he's done the interview talking about Barcelona, so he's angling for a move. I haven't seen too much from Rashford that's annoyed me, if I'm being honest, since he went out on loan. Hopefully, this deal with Barcelona is put together. Hopefully, we get a little obligation that they can't buy out of, as we spoke about on Twitter last night. I'll
never fall for that again.
No, do you know what though? In fairness, I mean, this is the thing of it though. This is why I'm always open-minded. If the reports are true that we're going to get 25 to 30 million from Fenerbahce potentially, then I'm glad we did have that buyout clause, because it means in total we'll end up with 35 million for him rather than the 25 million we would have got if they bought him. So
the Sancho one's so weird though, because it's a loan again today. I just so much it doesn't.
Well,
make
there's
sense.
a loan with obligation, but I've heard another rumor that we've still got an option to extend for a year. So that does help us in these negotiations where we can say, look, put in an obligation of some sort, or we'll trigger the extra year and it delays it again. So hopefully we can find it. But this is where I told you I'm going to judge Ineos, is how they actually handle these situations. Do they raise us the money? Do they go out and buy quality to improve the squad this summer? And if in the end they do a decent job and we improve on the pitch, I'll praise it. If we don't, even if I like it in the initial next season we're awful, none of the signings work, then bang it. As you know, they've done a bad job. It's as simple as that for me. Mark, the reason I don't rate Sesko is because others only see his goals, but if you watch his overall shots, you would see has lazy finishing. Only the goals look great, but his overall shooting is not. I don't rate just on stats, but the eye test.
Good, I agree. And I've got to say, we were linked to a player last night from Club Bruges, Arden Yashari. And yes. I put my hand up for the first time and said, I can't remember seeing this player play. So I can't give any opinion on that. And when it comes to Sesko, I've got to be honest, probably only watched him play 10 games in his whole career, maybe more, but he's not a player that I would sit here with any level of confidence and start telling you this, that, and the other. And you're right. You should always judge a player on the eye test. I haven't seen a lot of him, but I do also know that a lot of people I do trust really, really do rate him. You know, whether it's journalists, coaches, players, you know, fans in the community I work on, you know. So I think, look, as I said, I'd go Gyokeres over Sesko. I've always said that. And that might not help United. But it's very obvious that Arteta wants Sesko. And as we said, I think you have to go with the manager so that when it goes wrong, he can't go, you didn't give me what I wanted.
Yeah, I think that's very, very fair indeed. Obviously, we saw a big story yesterday, Mark, that the second, or the night before, actually, with a Ben Jacobs cracker, that the second bid has gone in. It feels very close now to Mbeumo happening. And we're trying to get that. We're trying to get something working for Ben, because I do think when it comes to being a journalist, PR is a lot of it. You've got the Ornstein bomb, you've got the here we go. The Avenue has come up with Jacobs cracker, but then we'll see if it catches on. Who knows? But the second bid for Mbeumo has gone in. It does appear that this deal is very close, and we'll get your views on that. But I thought it was worthwhile revisiting this old chestnut, because it's now been revealed by 4 different major media outlets that he'll be on a salary of around 150,000 a week, not the 3.7 billion yen that everybody reported a few weeks ago. But let's have a little look back at, not surprisingly, this Newcastle fan talking about it.
So that's why Bryan Mbeumo wants to join Manchester United. Not because of that Manchester United pull, it's because he's going to be earning £1 million per month. Who would have thought? And after being quite disappointed, all of a sudden, I'm not so bothered that Newcastle are now going to miss out on Mbeumo. It's been reported by various different credible sources that Mbeumo wants 250 grand a week, although earning 45 grand a week at Brentford. Well, that's Newcastle certainly not signing him anytime soon. Can we actually afford to pay the player 250 grand per week? Yes. Are we stupid enough to do so? No. Alexander Isak is on £120,000 per week. That's less than half of what Mbeumo's asking for. We have a fantastic wage structure in place, and it will not be getting ruined. People actually thought he was joining Man United over Newcastle and even Aston Villa in hopes of bettering his career. There's only one motivation for the move, and that's money. There's no two ways about it.
I just thought I'll play it. It made me laugh. The bitterness was that he's now earning less. Newcastle ended up going for by the way, please get Anthony Elanga. We've got a nice sell-on clause in that deal, which will give us a little bit more money. But yeah, look, Mbeumo's coming in. It turns out it's not all about the money, and money is a factor. But I thought that was interesting, considering as well they're about to make Isak the highest paid player in their club's history to stop him leaving. But it's not about the money.
Nah, I mean, look, it's pure bitterness, isn't it? And I think that the fact that Isak's on 120 grand a week, I don't think Isak sat there going, I'm proud to be a Newcastle player in this wage structure. He's probably going, what the fuck is going on? Why am I on such shit wages? So, yeah, I think you'll find that Isak's not going to sit there happy for long on 120 grand a week. Look, to be fair, to play devil's advocate, I think Newcastle fans get very frustrated because they've got a lot of money that they can't spend. Trust me, they would be paying Mbeumo 300 grand a week if they could. They're obviously limited by FFP. And Newcastle are a better club than Man United at the moment. They're in the Champions League. They deservedly so. But this is something we mentioned last week. This will run out for Man United, but it is still true. And you can't dismiss it as money. Cunha loves Man United because he remembers great Man United teams. And obviously Mbeumo will as well. But they're 25. So 10, 15 years ago, when they were like 8, 9, 10, we were winning Premier League titles. We still had Wayne Rooney and people like that.
Yeah.
In 5 years' time, there won't be 25-year-olds who look back on Man United and go, I'm going to pick Man United over Newcastle, because we won't have the pull. So we do still have the pull. And it's an age thing, but it won't be there for much longer. And I would be, whilst we can celebrate we have the pull at the moment, and it is because it's Man United, it's going to run out. And we need to be very careful of that. But yeah, it's just bitterness at the moment.
Yeah, look, I agree that it will run out. And equally, look, I thought it was, some people are getting annoyed in the comments. Listen, this is a grown-up who's put a TikTok out publicly. We're reacting to it. No one's really kicking off at him. What's really interesting about it for me, though, is that what you said there about that pool runs out. What I think rivals don't comprehend with Man United is what is attractive, not in their minds, because we do this a lot, don't we? You know, we'll talk about Isak in a minute, but a lot of Newcastle fans said to me last night, Isak told us he loves playing for us, therefore that means he won't leave. Professional footballers saying they love a football club, unless they grew up supporting it, don't love the club like the fans do. They don't love the club like you love your wife, right? I'm assuming, but I'm sure you do. Big up Mrs. Goldbridge, right? It's not the same type of love. They're professionals. You've had jobs. I've had jobs. You might like being there. You might like the people, but for the right offer, you'll still move on because they're professionals. But equally, in a professional's mind, what is a motivation is, what if I could be part of a team that gets Man United back to that level that I fell in love watching them at? There is a status to that 99.9% of all football clubs in the world cannot offer you. You've got United and Liverpool in England that are probably in that area. You've got Real Madrid, Barca, Bayern, AC Milan have definitely got it. If there was suddenly the right backing at AC Milan, and you're an Italian player, and it's like, we've got an opportunity here to get AC Milan. You know, Pep's coming in as manager. There's money being put into it. If there's a chance to make AC Milan the best team in the world again, there's a lot of international players, but especially a lot of Italians or players that play in Italy that would jump at the chance to do that, because there's certain clubs that just hit differently, and we haven't lost that yet. And I just think rivals need to stop thinking like fans and be a little bit more objective. Speaking of that, though, this big story came out last night that says that Liverpool have the funds, regardless of how much they want to charge, to test Newcastle's resolve for Isak. Newcastle are willing to break their wage structure to keep him. It's been very interesting, Mark, the way Liverpool fans and Newcastle fans have taken snippets from the article. All the Newcastle aggregators have gone with, they're going to break the wage structure, highest paid player in our history to fend off Liverpool. The Liverpool aggregators have taken the parts of the story which were Liverpool have got the money. There is a line that says Newcastle are worried that Isak's head could be turned. They're worried that Champions League football isn't enough. So it does feel like one of those articles where this deal really could go either way. What's your take on it, mate?
Well, first of all, I've never heard of the source. So I was just checking it, whether it was like one of the Hardy brothers from wrestling and branched out into football. But apparently he writes for the Times. So there we go. I can't take the piss. I've never heard of him before, but he's a Northern sports correspondent. So therefore, I think it adds a bit of validity to it. I think with Isak, it's really well understood. Fabrizio said it, and a couple of other people have said it, that if Newcastle want to do a deal, they'll do it, and they will pay big money for it. But Newcastle, I think the minute they got Champions League football, don't need to do a deal. So unless Isak hands in a transfer request, and I don't think he will, I think Liverpool need to move on from it quickly or make something happen with it quickly. I still think it's possible, but I'd say my expectation is that he will stay at Liverpool. But look, it can happen. It's just a difficult deal to do. And there's no doubt that Liverpool will do it if Newcastle are open to doing it. But obviously Newcastle aren't open to doing it at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I do think they maybe need to move on from this if they feel they really need a striker. So if they feel we're okay with everything we've got, this is just I know everyone hates this word, but market opportunity. If they feel that this is a love to have rather than a need to have, they can maybe drag it on.
The favourites for the league and the favourite for the Champions League if they get Isak. That's the thing.
Mate, yeah. I mean, I'm at this point with it where I think if they're not having a multi-trophy winning season, if they sign Isak on top of what else they've already got, plus Gahey might be joining as well. If they're not winning Prem and Cup, Champions League and Cup, I think they could look at that as slightly disappointing.
It's a dynasty building if they get him. They could dominate for 5 years with what they've got. Obviously, they've still got to transition out away from Salah and Van Dijk in that time, but this is the first proper season of Slot, which sounds weird when they've already won the league. But I don't think it will happen, and it's probably a good thing it doesn't. But they'll certainly do it if they can.
Without a doubt. This here says, do you agree with Arsenal demanders that Arteta should be sacked if he doesn't win a big trophy this season? I think he has taken the team in the right direction and still is. I want trophies, but what's up with the now or never?
If they lose the league by 3 points, he won't be sacked. If they lose the league and come second by 15 or 10 points, I think he will go. I think the context is always going to be key. You can't go into a season saying you've got to win a major trophy, because what if you get to the Champions League final and there's a dodgy VAR decision and you lose unjust? You don't sack him then. So I think the justification is from Arsenal fans is they want to see the league won this year or the Champions League won this year, and that has to be the expectation. But then the context will come in. You know, if you have a good season and you just miss out, you'd be mad to sack him, because as we know, it takes time to build teams and you'd have to go back to the start again. So I think Arsenal have to win the league next year, but I don't think you necessarily get sacked if you don't, if there is a context to it. But yeah, last season, if he has a season like last season again, I think you would probably look at changing it.
Yeah, look, Ali here says Liverpool didn't win the league for 30 years. You're telling me they have lost their pull. Terry and Mark talking shit there. Sorry, lads. Oh.
Yeah, your pull wasn't that great, mate.
Well, he's a United fan, actually. He's a United fan.
No, but he's talking shit because Liverpool's pull in the noughties was shit. Like it wasn't that good. You know, obviously you've had success with people like Luis Suarez and Xavi Alonso, etc., and they were good signings. But what we're talking about is the pull of going toe to toe with teams like Newcastle, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, and them signing to you because you're Man United. That's not going to happen in 5 years' time if we continue on this trajectory, because you can't just keep saying, even most Man United fans don't fall for we're Man United anymore. The stadium's going to get knocked down. The Glazers have took it into debt. The performance on the pitch is shit. You can't just keep going we're Man United. And also, most footballers aren't Man United fans. They're mercenaries. So if you're not going to pay them the wages, then we're not going to have the pull. And we have the pull with Mbeumo and Cunha because they have a love for Man United. But that's going to get less and less younger players are going to support Man United. It's just the way of the world.
Well, you think about these boys are in their mid to late 20s and they remember that Rooney team. Well, that's the last great team we had. So again, what are the 18 to 23-year-olds? What do they remember about Man United? Their probably earliest memories or vivid memories are probably going to be the Moyes and the LVG and Jose times. The generation after that are going to remember Ollie and co. And it will have an impact. Plus, look, Liverpool didn't also have the competition of teams like Chelsea's and Newcastle's and City's in terms of their money until the mid-noughties. So they were already 15 years in. We're 15 years into that, and there's so many more teams now with finances and money that can compete with you. So, yeah, it's massive. Mark, listen, always a pleasure, mate, to sit here and speak with you. And we're going to do a little bit longer, but I know you've got a very busy day today. So, viewers, please hit the like button before you go. We're live again at 3:30 today with Mo and Hussam. We'll be catching up on this Arsenal news that has broke. We're talking all things football. So come back here. 3:30 UK time. Mark, you live again? The United Stand's always live at 2:00. So
live at
United
2:00,
Stand, 2:00. Get yourselves there. Sorry, Magnum here says Liverpool are favourites. Why do Arsenal have to win it, Mark? Mark's will explain that.
Yeah. The second for 3 years in 3 years. You know, Arteta are going to buy some good players. Striker, Subamendi, maybe Rodrigo. Yeah, Arsenal, we've got to see a proper title race this year. Maybe Liverpool will win it, but we've got to see a proper title race.
Absolutely. Listen, everyone, I appreciate you all tuning in very, very much indeed. Let me just make sure. Yes, that's all done. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.